What's happening, y'all? Miss Meg here, joined by Dominic, our Lord Helix Draft League champion. We are here bringing you power rankings for the Nuzlocke League. Now, this server is always full of fun stuff. This is a very unique league where you get like a little bit of Little Cup, you get a little bit of a mid-tier, and you get a little bit of a standard draft as you start out with baby mons like the ones you see on your screen, but then as the season progresses, you get to evolve your teammate and your companion as they grow. Don, do you have any few words for the viewers before we start?
No, let's just get into it.
Alright, so first up, we're going to talk about the Ruby division, starting with the commissioner himself, Brave. This is Brave's team. What are your thoughts on this baby route team?
Well, wait, can you share your screen?
Oh, I am so sorry. I did not even realize I was not sharing. Alright, hold on. I'm leaving that edited. Alright,
Okay.
that should be better.
There we go, yeah.
Alright, so what do you think?
Okay. This team is scary. The Sneasel early is super scary. Like, as someone, I used Sneasel before in like a previous league where it's just up against all of all the Pokemon and it did super well. So this thing in like against a bunch of babies is absolutely thrives. It doesn't think it gets Dire Claw it doesn't get Dire Claw when it's just a Sneasel, but it's still really good. And just the rest of the team, like, I don't know, this as far as like the early weeks goes, Charcadet's not really doing anything early, but everything else just scary. Like, or Dino's not really either, but I think Meowth Gallagher gets Tough Claws, like the little one. That's always like a threat. Wattrel. Oh, I know it says right here. Yeah. I like Wattrel a lot with Wind Power. Just does a lot of electric type damage. Trudel's just early Prankstermon, and then Rookie just does what it does all three lines. The only thing that really changes is the stats. It's just Rillaboom, but little, just like all really, which is phenomenal, obviously.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sneasel is insanely good value for this baby league, or baby portion of the league. Just base 120 on your stab boost with Gunk Shot and close combat alone is just, it's enough to like really knock some sense in a lot of these mons. Dino is scary only if you are lucky enough to get off stuff with Hustle, just because that power boost is also pretty nice. But I agree, this is a pretty well-rounded team, even for a baby, in terms of like tool sets, like good amount of fake out, good amount of speed control, prankster, good amount of bulk. And as we go through the stages of evolution, this is kind of the mid-tier where you do get that Sneasler that does have the Dire Claw, like you mentioned earlier. And you get your Grafai, which has a little bit more of a unburden usage with the Thwacky. And then you get to the final stage of evolution, and now I feel like we're cooking with some gas. So what do you think about it as the end result?
I think this team is amazing as like an end result, especially for like the power level that we have here. It's really great. Just the only thing not super huge fan of is the Golduck, but like obviously that's I don't know, it's one mon, like it's one of the 3 tier 1s. Like it's still, I don't even know what the other tier 1s are because they're all like, all these mons just look decent. It's Donphan and something else, but I'm not really sure. I don't know, just again, like Kilowattrel does its thing, and the same thing that Wattrel does, but it does good damage. It's a really fast Tailwind. This team uses Tailwind pretty well with things like Gardevoir, Rillaboom, Ceruledge, and the Hydra. Sneasler, obviously with Dire Claw, like it can just absolutely hacks you and just steal games. It's performing so well in Reg H right now, and in this format, I'm assuming it's gonna perform just as well because of its versatility of sets, especially here. Because in Reg H, like you're forced to choose either Focus Sash or Seed or like what they're running, like Whiter. But here, like you can change every week. You can run Grassy Seed, you can run Focus Sash. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Whiter, but you can run it. The Unburden, like here you probably wouldn't because you're Rillaboom, but like the fact that you can switch up every week, just makes it super versatile and super scary.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team is just like bulky. It's just like Ceruledge, Donphan, Rillaboom, Grafai, even Hydra. Or Grafai's not bulky, but it helps the team, the bulk of the team. I think he does at least. I don't really know what moves he gets, but yeah.
Yeah, no, Grafai is just really good disruption for this team. Like, Prankster Encore is a very useful tool in the general sense. If you want to go Unburdened to get around like Dark Mons, you can just have Unburdened Grafai and get your fast Encore that way. It is interesting to have two different Unburdened Mons on the same team, but they do things differently enough that I think it's honestly I don't think it's this big overlap. One thing I did forget to mention at the start of the video is the Pokemon that are in purple are the Terra Captains for each team. They get two different types of the coaches choosing. Through the stages of the league, like you can obviously change your Terra Captains from mid-season to the end of the season, but for the purposes of this video, we'll just kind of leave them at where they are in the beginning stages. So Braves were Wattrel, Psyduck, and Manphy. But let us move on. Let us move on to the next team. It should look awfully familiar to you. Why don't you talk us through your team, Mr. Champion?
I mean, I can sure. I feel like it'd be more appropriate for you to say thoughts, but I'll just say my general. I don't know. I'm pretty proud of this team. Like, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of it right now because a lot of the mons are. Oh, okay. A lot of the mons are kind of like Toxel, Tyrogue are very unusable. Their team is pretty unusable right now. But I don't know. I just think as the team progresses, like I think I have some good stuff in store. Like there's a lot of Earthquake communities, Tailwind, it's just a lot of good speed control, and there's some good priority, and and like some decent bulky options too. But I mean, I can talk all day about my team, but what do you think about it?
I think this is your team is a good indicator of like common thing I would see in this format. Really struggling in the early weeks, but like just even from my general Pokemon knowledge of what these mons evolve into, like you're just setting yourself up for the long game. Like yes, a lot of these mons are not very usable right now. Like some of your best offense is like Tailwind, Gale Wings into like adaptability EV with like Water Bubble Fighter, and Yanma puts in a really good amount of work just being like super fast. But like the team can still do stuff. It's probably going to have a little bit of EV-Lite competition because a lot of these guys are a little bit more bulky than offensive in this stage. But if we move through the ranks, you know, here's your mid-season, you have a lot more of your evolutions now, of course, so you're doing a lot more damage. And then near the end, you know, your final result, getting like this Talonflame is pretty big speed control-wise. This Arachnid is very good for Trick Room. Getting a Sylveon as a potential option is amazing, and then like this fantasy core just kind of goes like really hard. Sylveon, the Bronzor, and the Dragonite. Even the double dragon is not really such a big deal, quite honestly.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I was very hesitant about the double dragons, but like I kind of no other option for else to pick with Dragonite, and like I don't know, Dragonite Garchomp's seeing some play right now, and so I figure it's not terrible.
Yeah, I think the biggest selling point about the double dragon really is like Garchomp's pretty solidified as an offensive dragon, but Dragonite is flexible. It can do special sets, which is something Garchomp, I won't say can't do, but probably shouldn't.
I'd say can't do.
Yeah, well, you know, I try to be generous for the people in the audience who want to actually cook and like run serve Garchomp. Like, I'm not gonna kill dreams before they get off the ground. But Dragonite can doing like offensive roles on both sides of the spectrum, physical, special, and doing like some support sets. I think that sets it apart where it's not so bad. Obviously, having the double dragon is really rough for like just 4 times ice weakness, but you could theoretically maybe make that a Terra Captain or so. I don't actually remember if they qualify for Terra Captains, but
they don't know.
Okay, well, you do have at least some pretty solid ice resist in the Bronzong and the Arachnid. So, and then the Bramble Gas and the Yanmega can obviously Terra. So, honestly, your team's pretty solid. Really kind of scary. Like these mons are pretty threatening, and you have really nice speed control down from the top end to the bottom. So, good stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Alright, let's move on to the next team, which is the Tokyo Terrors. I should have probably put the team logos in, but maybe you'll do that in post editing.
Let's do
What do you think about this team?
Um, I think I'm not sure about how I feel about it early on. At least like some of these mods don't really do much in the early stages. I know like Mareep, like Applin. I don't know what Meditate really does. I mean, it gets pure power and like depending on what its attack set is, it could be good for this stage. But I'm not really sure. I'm not a huge fan of this team pre-evolved. When it's more evolved, I am quite a fan of it. But in this baby form, not. There's just like so much. So many of your mods don't do anything. It's like kind of the common theme you said. Like a lot of the babies don't do anything, and then you have to wait for them to evolve. And I think for the really good teams, the teams that like finish like the team that finishes like first seed in both divisions is gonna not have this problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky dance because basically a baby stage lasts for at least I believe 3 full weeks. So like you finish like your week 3 game, and I think that's when the first round of evolutions start. I could be mistaken about that.
That's when the that's when things like Feebas and like Meta Titan Sandy Gas would evolve, but the 3 stages evolve once after week 2.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Alright, so I mean, but still, like, you're still committing to basically playing 2 full weeks with the team as is. I would agree that this particular team will probably struggle with that. Metatite's attack, when you factor in pure power, is base 80, and it gets a lot of the same. It gets pretty much the same strong moves that Medicham gets. So, like, you still get base 120 close combat, which is good, but like, that's literally just Medicham on this team carrying a lot of the offense. Like, maybe Varun can set up something. I don't actually know if it gets shift gear. I would assume it probably does. But like, Feebas is pretty much a dead slot majority of the time. Cleffa's decent for redirection. And outside of that, maybe like Mareep can do something offensively, but like it's a struggle to get damage on the board with these guys.
Okay, I didn't know it was 40. I will say 40 attack with pure power, like this format here. Oh, it's level 100. The attack stat comes out to, if it's 252 adamant, it comes out to 101, which is 202 attack in this baby format with pure power, which is obviously insane.
Yeah, that's still very good. And then like as you go through the season, this is gonna be the middle evolution. And then the final evolution is this team, which obviously gets considerably better. It gets considerably bulkier too. Went from basically having like nothing at all to like a really strong, like bulky offensive team with the redirection to match for a lot of their setup threats. So what do you think about the team at the final stages of evolution?
I think this team, and correct me if I'm wrong, but well, actually, here, wait. I think Metachamp does get it, but it's not like a great user of the move. This team needs Trick Room Setter badly. I think in my tier list that I made, which will show at the end probably, the one thing that was stopping me from rating this team very highly is that there's like no good Trick Room Setter. Clefable does not get Trick Room, which I thought it did before this, but I checked. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, it doesn't get Trick Room. Yep. Metacham does, but like the Metacham, Metatype falls off so hard after everything's evolved. So yeah, but this team needs Trick Room. This team is Hydrabla as Ampro says. It has 3 really slow special attackers. That I mean, Palisand's like not great, but like the other 2 would work great in Trick Room. But if you just don't have a great setter of the move, isn't too great. Like I don't know, I wouldn't want to be leading Clefable, Metacham, and then like actually it could be decent. Like Metacham is decent damage. It's just not the slowest thing in the world. Like I don't want to be leading Clefable, Metacham just to set Trick Room and then like outspending your own Trick Room by something that can just take out the very frail Metacham. Like I don't know.
I would agree with that. Like, yeah, this team only has 1 Trick Room setter. You can see that here on the lower right.
Oh,
well,
okay, I didn't realize.
More importantly, it doesn't have any tailwind. Like its speed control is just really poor. Like in general, like there's no tailwind setter. It only has Ampharos, which is very slow for using Electro Web, and same with Icy Wind. Like it's Milotic and Clefable. Like they're too slow to get speed control off the ground. And I think that would be really where this team struggles. Like, yeah, it can live hits, but like you're not moving first enough of the time, I think, to warrant like you might survive a double up, but then like what are you really doing if you can't KO something like that turn? Like your mod just gets killed again the very next round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
think
will
this team,
I will say the one benefit of specifically that Medicham offers this team, despite having 4 speed tiers, is actually some really good priority moves. Just even having Fake Out on lead is really nice. The double Fake Out is probably one of the better ways that this team will try to take advantage of getting off the ground with Incineroar and Medicham, and then having Clefable for interference, but I think it's still going to struggle a bit in the general sense.
yeah, for sure. I think like this team, obviously it's very bulky, but the thing you were saying is there's no speed control. Like while obviously like Dragapult and Cinccino both get Thunder Wave and they're both pretty fast. I do like using Thunder Wave speed control, but permanent. But like if you're thinking about like what the team would do is it can use like Banded Dragapult plus like Incineroar, right? It can do some stuff there, but like it feels like the good modes of this team there's like 1 or 2, and then like you're just struggling because you don't have that Trick Room. That Trick Room would make this team very scary and very like just hard to break because you can't like you just unless you have like a prankster mod, it's like hard to control this team if it's in Trick Room. It's hard to do much damage to it. With the Hydropple just regenerating the Incineroar, making you do 0 damage, switching around, helping the Hydropple. I love the Incineroar Hydropple combo. Just whisk through his Trick Room.
Yeah. Nah, I'm inclined to agree. I actually really like the Incineroar Hydropple Milo combo. I think that's a very good bulky Fire Water Grass core. If I was to make one suggestion before moving on, I might trade the Palossand out for like maybe a Trick Room setter, maybe up the Ghost type, and then if you really want the ground mon, like reconfigure it somewhere else. What was that?
Actually, I'm gonna pull up the tier list because if we're gonna make like suggestions like that, I'll have it.
Yeah.
But because the tier is so weird in this, like, here.
Yeah, I would say like a good Trick Room setter would be pretty nice. Like a Ghost one specifically, so you don't have to worry about Fake Out, which is handy.
There is. Oh yeah, okay. There's not much in that tier. It's the Riverside one, so it's all the water types.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe not Sandy Gas, but like I don't know, maybe like the Reverum if there's something in that here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Trading this is hard though too because there's the added like stipulation that it has to be doing badly.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but assuming at this point in the season, like it's you've put in 5 weeks, maybe you can shuffle it around. But I would say definitely look for a stronger Trick Room setter is the overall critique.
Oh yeah,
All right.
there's a you trade Reverum for Glare and Slowpoke. That's one of the options.
Yeah, not bad. All right, let's move on to the Nova Scotia Scythers. Why don't you lead us in talking about this team?
Yeah. So I think this team. I think it's a lot of the Pokemon don't shine super early, but then there's a Scyther, right? So it's like very compensated. Scyther is like the best thing in the early weeks in this league because like 500 base set total, like that's just insane. Against like look at the rest of his team, like that's so outstanding.
Really?
They're like second evos.
Yeah, for sure.
But we can talk about this once the team. You can probably go to the evolved side because like the only thing you really see here is just the Scyther. There's just like a insane threat early.
This is mid-season with one.
Yeah, once it evolves, like I don't know, the Serp is good. I like Serp as like a Terra Captain, but it just like has some support too, so it can either go offensive like with Blue Storm setup or like Glare, Disruption, Taunt. Does it get Encore? No, it doesn't. But it gets Taunt, it's Glare. It just gets like a good supporting move set, like kind of good. It's not the greatest, but it gets moves and it's really fast. But just there's so much about this team that like once it's evolved, it doesn't like fit together super well. Obviously, what's Arctivax evolution? Baxcalibur. I
Yep.
love Baxcalibur's great. Um,
Yeah, this is the
Grimmsnarl's
end
great.
result.
That's kind of it. Like, what is Politoed doing? Arbok and Ariados aren't doing anything. Neither's Rampardos. There's not like really trick room for Rampardos to shine. Obviously, you can run Scarf Rampardos, but I don't even know what speed that hits. Rampardos is pretty slow. Um, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like this team is. There's very obvious substitutes that could be made for some of these mons that would make the team much better. Like, no one, you're not using this Politoed's Rain. I mean, if you want to spam Thunder's Raichu, like, go ahead off his 90 or 85 special attack, like, go for it, dude. But, like, I don't know. It's like, and with Scissor, it's like, it can go with Scissor too, but, like, you have Houndoom, you have Baxcalibur to take fire attacks, like, I don't know, you don't need the range so much. And yeah, it's just like top heavy, but in a format where, like, the power level isn't crazy, so the top heavy mons aren't, like, game defining, or, like, game breaking, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan though.
I can agree with a lot of those. One of my biggest critiques of this team actually is its legit lack of special offense. Like, the special offense of this team literally falls on basically the tail of Houndoom, Superior specifically getting off Leaf Storm, and Politoed specifically spamming water moves in rain. This team is, I would not necessarily, like, it's obviously very physically dominant, which is, you know, that has its own weaknesses. Weak to Intimidate, weak to, you know, Will-O-Wisps, all that stuff. But my biggest issue is kind of similar to your critique, is like, there's a lot of roll compression here, and like a lot of discord in terms of like how the team is constructed. Like, not having an abuser for rain would be more acceptable if, like, the Politoed could Terra and, like, you could abuse, like, the water absorb kind of capabilities. I also don't really understand. I mean, I get that Ariados has Rage Power, and, like, obviously that's good. But I
didn't even know that.
Yeah, Ariados gets Rage Power, but, like, I feel like Ariados and Arbok are two kind of supportive poison types in the general sense, and I just feel like there's a bit of overlap there. There's also a very large ground weakness on this team due to the overlap, and only one of those mons can actually Terra out of that ground weakness, which is the Rampardos. Yeah, the speed control is like, it's honestly kind of poor. Like, Grimmsnarl with Thunder Waves and Raichu with Thunder Wave Electro Wave is actually really strong speed control because of,
like, Superior too.
Yeah, and then Glare Superior, but that's like, they're strong speed control because of what those mons are, not necessarily because it's just all that it needs. But I'd say that's pretty much my my biggest critique. As far as, like, strengths, if this team is allowed to punch holes in you physically, then you're going down. Like, trying to survive Wave Rush, Choice Band, Bullet Punch, this thing, if it gets off a head smash, like, it's pretty much just game over, honestly. Like, it's very hard to live those high base power hits. Anything else before we move on?
No, I think we're good.
Alright. Let us move on to Average Joes. Alright, I'll just jump in with this one. So, I actually really like this baby team. There aren't too many of them that I have to say look super well balanced at this stage. Especially for, like, the stat lines and, you know, base stats and all that, but, like, there's a good amount of stuff to work with here. Like, you have a nice little beat up mode with the Cottony and the Rattle Dunsparce that can hold Eviolite. You have a self set up Quackly with Moxie that can get off the ground. You have some Intimidate support with the Mash Chip. Really bulky Trick Room mode with these four down here, 3 of which are Terra Captains. You get your redirection with the Poltergeist. Like, it's just a really well put together team for this stage. What do you think?
I'd agree. One thing is the Dunsparce cannot hold the Eviolite, but...
yes, I did forget. There are certain mons that are restricted from holding Eviolite from this league, yeah.
Yeah. I think this team early on is pretty nice. It's, the Giraffe Rig makes it, the Giraffe Rig plus the Q-Fint makes for a really good Trick Room mode, and same with the Poltergeist, obviously. Like, in Trick Room, this team looks amazing early on. And then you have, obviously, the Connie to speed everything up a little bit. Probably to outspeed most things, because in, like, when the stats are so small, EVs have such a big effect. If you train your Pokemon like even with a little bit of speed under Tailwind, they're gonna outspeed everything. So
Right.
I think this team has great speed control early on, and great. It's very threatening early on. Um, but there's a couple mons that don't do anything. Like Tadpole doesn't do anything, but it's kind of it, I think. Or Surskit too. Surskit doesn't do anything, but those are just kind of it. So you're not
Yeah.
like super restrained early on. You have a lot of team building options, and I think early on is when this team does the best.
Yeah. I would.
Unfortunately,
I would agree with you on that. And so this is like a snapshot of the middle of the road evolutions, which then you get your Masquerain and your Belly Belt that are doing a little bit more work, and like your Dunsparce and whatnot. And then this is the final result, which really doesn't change much because pretty much all of these are second stage evos. The Quaquaval is the only one that actually has to wait until like week 5. So that's also something to be said about that. Like this team more or less hits its full power at like basically week 3.
yeah. I think this team is still solid. Like I think a lot of the teams, like in this league, when I was doing my draft or my tier list, a lot of things I saw was a lot of these teams are just like solid, like when they're at their final stages. But this team's for sure solid, but I don't know. It's not like it doesn't seem like it's ripping holes through you other than under Trick Room. And although Fergraph is a really consistent Trick Room setter, I don't know. It's just not like very well. Sinistrat and Fergraph are very consistent setting Trick Room. Like there's a lot of ways to avoid Trick Room. There's ways to play around Trick Room, and once you're out of Trick Room, sure you have Whimsicott, but like what's really benefiting off of Whimsicott's speed? Like just Quackable, right? And I guess my Mastiff, if you're gonna like, well, I don't really know how my Mastiff does or what it does in doubles as an Intimidator. I've only used it in like Masters where I'd run Stakeout like his Revenge Killer, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
I just don't like the over reliance on Trick Room, but I do like it when it is in Trick Room.
well, I mean, Mabasta is actually pretty good in doubles, like offensively. Like it does have base 120 physical attack. I've used it in a doubles league before. Like I usually use it as an intimidate mon, even in the face of like Defiant and whatnot. You can just use Mirror Herb to get yourself the +2 boost, which is nice.
I love doing that.
But it's just a pretty like flexible mon. You can throw an Assault Vest on it, like Snarl, Crunch. Like it gets some decent coverage moves, like Play Off and all that jazz. But I would agree, like this team just feels like it's missing a little something. Like for as bulky as it is, I appreciate like the Sinistcha like having hospitality for like most of these guys that are going to live a lot of hits, but like it is the question of like where is like the damage threat, like other than Quavel with Moxie and like maybe Camerupt with like Eruption with like fake tears from Whimsicott. Like I'm not really seeing like a huge damage threat to me. Like Cabarage is pretty good with like Sheer Force, Life Orb stuff, but like it's also a little frail, despite how high in space HP is. It doesn't take hits like absurdly well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this team is just a little predictable, and that's like in draft I really value a team not being like super predictable in its game plan. So yeah.
Alright, let us move on to the next team, which is the Snickers Bar, coached by Snickers, of course. Talk me through this baby route team.
Yeah, so I did get rolled up by this team last week. I mean, not rolled up. It was pretty close, but I think what people really underestimate is this Teddy Ursa with the quick feet. It's like surprisingly fast. In this baby, like it outsped my whole team. Like when I didn't have Tailwind up, just because you know how I said earlier, like the speeds or the stats are so reliant on EVs. So if you would invest in speeds and then have like that quick feet 1.5, that is really fast. Even with just the 40 base speed that Teddy Ursa has. On top of it, Growlithe, just damage mitigation, and like Palmy's not great. Palmy, like I didn't get brought against me, but I think Palmy has a lot of damage mitigation that it can do that's really good. Like it can do Nuzzle, Ear Impulse, Charm, all that fun stuff. And then the team's damage early on isn't great, but obviously like Teddiursa was the damage with the facade, quick feet. And then it also set up Swords Dance on me too. Uh,
Jeez.
yeah, so
Yeah.
early it's like very reliant on the Teddiursa, which when I was prepping, I didn't realize was going to be such a huge threat. Same with also with the Shroomish too. The Shroomish with Spore, I mean it's just even though there's a sleep clause, like it's still scary. Like early on, especially when uh, you have like one or two key pieces. If that key piece goes to sleep, like in my game, if my Yanma went to sleep, like yeah, I was trying to avoid that the entire game. I did avoid it, but it caused a lot of like switching and safe playing that could be easily abused.
Yeah. Not for sure. I would agree with that. This I look at this team and I'm just like, there's a Snom, there's a Magikarp, and like there's a Palmy. Like it doesn't scream threatening, but just the like you said, like the little stuff that you may overlook, like Teddiursa, the Blitzel probably doing a decent amount of work, just being like super fast and having 3 really strong abilities. I imagine even Silicobra is probably mostly decent, like as a bulky Eviolite user, and then of course you have the whole Spore pressure from Shroomish. It's like I don't think it's like a great team as far as like damage output, but it definitely can play the long game for the baby format for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not the best baby team, but I think it's easy to underrate.
And then as we go through, this is the team at mid tier. Obviously, they have choices for like which Weezing they want. And then this would be the team at the ends. So what do you think about the team now? Now that we've hit the
I
final
think
stage of Evo evolution.
I think it's just I think it's scary, but like why you got like Prim and Gyarados, why you got Ursula and Sandaconda, like um and then like uh actually that's like man, oh yeah, why you got Zebstrika and like Palmont. I don't know. It's just I think I did rate this team pretty highly on my tier list. That's just because of like the 7 that it's bringing are really good. Like I love Palmont in this format. I've been using it a bit in Reg Age. Like early on Reg Age, I had it on like Nadondozo team. It just does so much damage with like its Terra Electric, uh, uh, Double Shock. I love Primarina. I think Gyarados is pretty decent. Like mainly, I think the 6 you're bringing are like Prim, Palmont, Arcanine, uh, Weezing, Gyara, and Ursa.
Yeah,
And then the problem with that is that there's like no tricking for Ursa, and there's no really super great speed control for Ursa as well. There's just no really great speed control for Ursa as well. So
yeah,
I think I actually missed out on making my tier list. I probably would have rated this team a little bit lower because I put it like in top 5. It probably would have been out of top 5, but I realized I didn't have a trick center. But yeah,
yeah. No,
it's
that's fair. I would say that's probably my
good pieces,
criticism as
but
well.
it's missing a couple of things.
Yeah, no solid speed control is a big knock against this team for me. Like Frostmoth can only do so much, and like obviously like you have electro webs and stuff, but it's tough. And obviously, you know, trades and stuff notwithstanding, but like there is a lot of type overlap and kind of role overlap because like even like having Fama and Brelam on the same team to me is, you know, like obviously yeah, like Brelam leans a little bit more into like that whole technician, Mach Punch, all those kind of things still bring him support pressure, but like whereas like Palma kind of just like to Terra and spam what is that, Double Shock or something for like no no real disadvantage. But I mean, there's definitely like a little bit of like missing glue pieces I think here because like I definitely don't think Palma and Zebstrika need to be on the same team. And even just like with this Weezing here, like picking the other Weezing really doesn't make too much sense. Like at least you're getting like Misty Surge out of that, but like then you don't want that necessarily with like Guts or Saluna.
That's true, yeah.
Or even with like Breloom Spore. It's like, you know, there's nothing really like abusing this here either.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I didn't realize the Weezing just does so much counter synergy.
Yeah. Alright, so let us move on to the next team. I'm gonna let you talk about this for a quick second. I will be back.
Okay, sure. Uh, hmm. I don't I don't like this team very much. Obviously, I like the Zorua, Poniard, um, Zora Poniard, like like the fact that Zora's immune to Poniard's Forex weakness. I like the synergy. I like Cutiefly and Rabambi, obviously. I have a history with them in this league, or in this league. Uh, but like, I don't know. I don't like I don't. Why is his mouse moving? Okay, I don't know. I don't like the Riolu and Mankey on the same team. I don't like that Wingull. And this is like a common thing with a lot of the rain team, or a lot of the two teams. The two teams in this whole thing that have Wingull, like in the other Division 2, they don't do anything with rain. The team in this division with Poliwag doesn't do anything with rain. There is another team in the other division that I think is pretty good that does things with the rain that I like a lot. But I don't know. I just don't like that you're not doing anything with the rain. And yeah, there's just a lot of things about this team that just like why? Like I like about the Riolu Mankey. Like I like the two mons individually, but like Riolu, like Lucario's not doing anything later on. And you have Annihilate, right? Like I don't know. This team just it's just like you dropped a lot of good Pokemon, but they need different partners.
I'm inclined to agree with that one. It does seem like this is kind of, even at the baby stage, just kind of like a mishmash of things. Like some of their better mons, like the Zora, Hisui, and the Poniard, just because they're like really fundamentally strong. And then this thing, I believe, gets like adaptability last resort, which is also pretty damn good. And Esper is pretty good for what it can do, just even as a baby mon. But like the rest of it, like doesn't really make too much sense. I get getting the Wingull now to get rain later, but it's like you said, like looking down the line, like this is middle, and then this is final. Like nothing's really taking advantage of that rain. Like the biggest thing I could say is that King Gambit gets a share of relief from fire moves, but like it's not a Terra Capsule, so it'll just get one shot like this combat 95% of the time anyway. And there's no rain abuser here. Would agree that Lucario without Terra is a lot less threatening than if it had access to like Terra Normal Extreme Speed at the very least. Electivire is a big up. Electabuzz is obviously very good, but I do like Electivire being pretty decent damage for this team. But tell me what you think about the this version of the team at the final stage of evolution.
Yeah, it's more the same. I don't know, like, I get the idea that like you could have Wingull early and then trade for like or maybe a rain abuser. Maybe he got sniped out of like a Basculin in the King Gambit tier, but I don't know. It's not cohesive. This team is very uncohesive. Like it has good speed control, and like if you just run Zoroark, King Gambit, Rabambi, Meowstic, Annihilate, and +1 every week, like, or I guess Electivire because with the follow me it's nice. It'll be fine. Like, you'll have options, but a lot of these Pokemon just don't do anything for this team. I think maybe they should have utilized Grace a little bit better because maybe they got sniped is my kind of thought process about a lot of these picks, but I'm just not a huge fan of a lot of what's going on this team.
I think there are definitely some adjustments that can possibly be made to this team just to have a little bit more synergy, kind of like you were saying. Like even just having like Meowstic, Rabambi, and Salazzle, like they're all really fast, kind of frail and supportive types for the typings that they offer, and not offering all that much in the offense department, other than Salazzle, of course. but then why have Salazzle doing offense on a rain team?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about this team, but just that it's so incohesive. It just I don't understand why a lot of these picks were made.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to the last team in this division, which is, I believe, it's Purloin the Victory. And what do you think of this team as the baby stage?
I think as a baby stage, well, actually, I would say it's not great, but there's some stuff it can do. Like, I don't know, like the move set of Flittle because it's like, um, it's such a weird mon. Like, you can kind of guess what moves a Spathra would get, but I have no idea what like Flittle's doing. I like what it's doing on the team, like just what it does in general. Yeah, I like Sprigatito. Obviously, being a monotype and having like a Protean-like ability, Protean or Libero, is much better than being a dual type and having Protean or Libero. So I like that it's just a grass type right now. I think Tandemaus. Actually, I don't think Tandemaus learns Follow Me until it evolves. But
Nah,
yeah, wait.
I don't think so.
I don't know. But so never mind about the Tandemaus. I don't really know what it does. I guess it can. Does it get Encore? Oh, it does get. It can Encore. Like
yeah,
it's very fast.
Encore, still gets Thunder Wave for like speed control, disruption, all that stuff.
That's a little speed control on. But again, this team doesn't have much speed control outside of that. There's no Trick Room. I think. There's Flittle. Flittle is so frail. Yeah, I don't know. I think the evolved team is much better than this team, but this baby is like not great.
All right, well, let us look at the evolve. So this is after the one evolution bracket, and then this is the final result. I would agree with you that the speed control options still, in the general sense, are not great. The only real advantage that you've gotten is Meowscarada can now set Trick Room, but Meowscarada is also your fastest mon, so it almost never wants to operate under Trick Room. The good thing is, while they don't have like any Tailwind or don't have like the fastest Icy Wind or Electro Web setters, like you do have speed boost as Spathra, spamming Lumina Crash, so opponents do actually have to prep for that. You get your redirection with your mouse holds, as well as offensive capabilities with Widelet's Population Bomb. And then Serena blocking priority making that play a lot safer. But I like this team certainly a lot more in this final stage. I don't think it was a bad baby team, but I think there was a lot more cohesion when these members are fully evolved.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like this team a lot more when it's evolved. I actually think it's pretty decent when it's evolved. Like Ivor maybe isn't the greatest, and neither is Lantern. Maybe not Alchemy, but like everything else, you don't need speed control so much when your team's just so fast. Like I don't know, half of this team is above base 100 speed, like, and then there's the rest of the team is like not terribly slow, other than the Gastro. Like we run Skarkle Dango a lot. Serena just helps because Serena's really nice because this team like doesn't have to set Trick Room because it's just or Tailwind because it's so fast already. So having Serena being able to just sit there while something else who's not like going to set Tailwind, they're going to actually attack and also be fast, is on the field. I just really like. I think this team offensively is super scary. Defensive backbone though is not super present. It's kind of just Serena, Gastro, kind of Goldango, but I've been learning Goldango is like not that reliable as like a defensive piece because you're often like investing a decent amount of speed and a good amount of special attack. Defensively, this team is not great. It has the mouse hold Frank Guard though, which I really like. But offensively, this team is very scary.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think defensively, it does kind of lean a lot on the shoulders of specifically Lantern and Gastrodon. And, I mean, in an ideal world, I wish this team could have, like, an Electric Flying Mon. I think that would not only patch the type chart up, but I just think it would be a good general, bulky pivot piece that they could use, like, not even necessarily specifically like Kilowatt. Like, I would settle for this team getting Rotom-Fan for this format. Just to have something a little bit more in that defensive backbone category. Because, like, I look at this team and, yeah, there's a lot of offensive pieces, but then, like, Lancer and Gastrodon kind of have to, like, do a lot of the work, like, with the bulky defensive stuff. And neither of them get too many tools, like, explicitly to help with that. Like, there's not, like, a life dew user or anything like that to really, like, profit off of, like, that Mousehold friend guard type stuff. I do really think Mousehold Bodega is probably the scariest part about this team in the general sense. Like, that is a very disruptively terrifying lead that can do a lot of different things into an opponent's team. Everything from setting up nasty plot to just follow me into choice specs making rain. Like, this coach has a lot of options with that Mousehold. So, good stuff there. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, about this team, I think it's just you just gonna run hyper offense most of the time, and that like, dude, the defensive backbone is super important. So I do think this team is scary, and I think my only complaint with it in terms of like a hyper offensive standpoint is that the only like good spread damage you have is Goldango without much speed control. Like I would like to see either Tailwind or like a faster Electro Web or Icy Wind than the two water types that are super slow, or just like a big spread damage fast mon that like can help with the hyper offensive playstyle that you're going for.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Pyro does get Hyper Voice and Heat Wave, and it's pretty fast and strong, so like, I think there's options there. We'll throw spray action. Alright, well, with that being said, that is the end of the Ruby division, so let us not waste any time. Let us pivot immediately over to the Sapphire division. Make sure that everything is linking up on the screen. So this is the Sapphire division. It's going to be 8 teams as well. Same exact rules apply. So let's start with the Las Vegas Corbinites. I'll jump in. I think that this team is actually pretty terrible as far as like the baby era is concerned. Just like the damage is not here. I don't know if Freebird gets last respects though, because that is obviously a huge plus if it does.
We'll look it up right now.
Yeah, but like just the overall bulk of this team and the speed tiers are not really doing too many favors, but it has a lot of really strong pieces like Tailwind that can't really be stopped due to Shield Dust, decent Trick Room. Pawniard's still pretty good, and you know, we've talked about Shroomish being good with the spore pressure, but it just something about this baby team just not super clicking. And then we have the whole thing with the wing roll again. Like nothing's really using rain here.
Yeah. Yeah. So Griever does not get last specs. He's running off just whole 3 guys. But I still think Griever is one of the better babies just because it's fluffy and it's bulky.
I agree.
I'm not a huge fan of this baby team. It's like Grookey and Shroomish are like some of the best 2 that you have, and they're both grass types, which makes it kind of awkward. And like other than Pawniard, those are kind of the big 3 on this team. But I don't know. There's none of the mons like that are like babies, but like gotten evolutions later that are really good in this part of the draft. While you also have a lot of Pokemon that are useless early on, so you don't have like that compensation for like the Ralts and for like Cutie Fly.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And as we go through the weeks, this is the mid-stage evolution, and then this is one end of the evolution with the Rillaboom, the Gardevoir, which could also be a Gallade or what have you. But for the most part, the team pretty much stays the same. It gets a lot bulkier as it grows up, so to speak. It gets a lot bulkier, and your speed control options do get a little bit more varied because they're on stronger mons. But I feel like there's still just the general sort of problem of like this. I feel like Houndstone would appreciate having sand, not rain. I feel like there's nothing really benefiting having Rain here, and in fact having a flying weakness and having Rain just invites people to spam Hurricane into like 3 of your mons, 2 of which can't Terra. So I think it's just that lack of synergy there. The speed tiers they're okay. It's actually, this gap is usually pretty bad, but because they have decent speed control options in the general sense, like Ramambi is pretty much just gonna set Tailwinds. It's unlikely it will try to do like setup Quiver Dance stuff on this team. But what are your thoughts?
I like this team a lot more when it's fully evolved. It's still not my favorite, but I definitely think it does a lot more. This team is very bulky, as you said. Rillaboom just makes teams so bulky, and I love that from that guy. The Grassy Surge just helps so much. Then we have King Gambit to like. I just love Rillaboom King Gambit here because obviously the Defiant makes it so you can't shut down the Rillaboom so easily, and the Rillaboom just kind of gets to work. And on top of having things like Glimora, just like slow down the team more, deal damage over time. Glimora is usually used on hyper offensive teams, but I think that in draft it can be more defensive on too, with especially on this team where like Earthquake is not a viable option, take it out instantly because of the Rillaboom. So it can deal some good damage over time and just whittle down your opponent slowly. I still don't like the fact that there's the Pelipper and the Breloom with the Rillaboom seems a little weird. Because you're not using, like, Spore Breloom is not really a viable option. Dreamish is pretty bulky for a little guy, but then with evolves into Breloom, it gets pretty frail compared to what's around it. So yeah, I think this team is, it definitely gets better. It's not bad. A lot of the teams in this they're not bad, but the Pelipper just irks me so much, and just the overall like just the overall like I don't see one big like boom factor because of like the King Gambit has his problems with his 4 times weaknesses, and the Rillaboom is like obviously Grassy Glide. Grass is not the best offensive type, but I still think this team just performs very well as like a bulky team that just whittles you down slowly and outplays you throughout the game rather than just like pulling through you with base stats or moves.
Alright, let us move on to team number 2 in the Sapphire Division, which is the Santaloon Storms, coached by Ted. I'm going to jump in. This is another team that we saw a few of them in the previous division, that it starts off really, really poorly with this with the baby mode. Like, there is just I mean, this actually has really good speed tiers for this leg of the format. I have to say these are very, very clean. But it's really like the damage. The good thing about this team in baby form is Impotent with fake tiers will help augment a lot of the damage problems that this team has, for sure. But like Rocket from Yasuo and Growlithe will also be putting up numbers with coaching. But for the most part, outside of that, like, you have a lot of dead slots most weeks. What do you think?
I think this team is not bad. It's unlike a lot of the teams we've been seeing, unlike a lot of teams, it's like a lot of teams we've been seeing, it does kind of struggle in the early weeks, and also like a lot of teams we've been seeing, there's like a decent amount of role overlap. Like, I'm just thinking about later on in the format, or later on like the weeks when things evolve, like why using Persian and Grimmsnarl, and why using Kilowattrel and like Electrode. I think there could have been some better picks made. But overall, I like the fact that you have the Terra on the Riolu, soon to be Lucario, for those Terra normal extreme speeds, which I'm pretty sure it's Terra normal. I think it's like normal and Ghost. I think I like Amoonguss. I just love Amoonguss. It's just a great mod. There is a Sleep Clause here, which I'm a huge fan of, but I think is there Sleep Clause? I could be wrong. I'll look.
I'm pretty sure we have Sleep Clause in this. Okay. Yeah.
But I still like Fungus a lot, or like Amoonguss, and then I think this team just once it evolves, like right now it's like not great. Once it evolves, you get Absca for decent Trick Room, and then to abuse that Trick Room, it's kind of just Rabsca. You're just like your Trick Room mode's mostly just Rabsca Amoonguss. But like in Trick Room, obviously Amoonguss is so threatening, and really like Arcanine Sui. I really like Grimmsnarl, and I really like the Wattrel, and I just think that some of the picks that were made, and I guess it's like to compensate for the overall low S speed. Like if there was no Persian Alola and Electro, this team would be so slow. But they also are overlapping in rules. So while I like what this team is doing in terms of it's just balance, bulky, and can deal like can just be pretty threatening with like the Arcanine Sui and the Amoonguss and the Lucario. I just I don't like there's so much overlap.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree. I think the role overlap is my biggest critique as well, and the speed tiers without the Electro and the Persian Alola would be a lot worse. They're still not the greatest because like there's still like this big kind of clumping here with Lucario, Furret, and Hisuian Arcanine. But since you now have like really premier prankster speed control that way, and you obviously still have multiple sources of redirection, I think that you could afford a slightly less neater version of speed tiers because you have this trio of like specifically disrupting overlap. I mean, and Persian Alola is also pretty good with icy winds and stuff. So, but I don't hate this team as it's fully evolved. It's got a lot of damage potential, but I think it might struggle just with like Furret pretty much only does redirection really well. Like it's not really like a damage dealer. And Amoonguss kind of falls in that same boat too, so it's kind of like if you ever really needed to bring one or the other or both, like how are you kind of really making those choices in the prep? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, I didn't even talk about this, but like again with how the Persian Electrode, like they're hard to justify bring. Furret's also hard to justify bring because you have the Amoonguss already. Like a lot of overlap on this team.
Yep. Alright, next up is, I believe it's the Caligari or Caligari Hearth Flames. I'm gonna let you take it away for this one.
Yeah. Huh. It's a little weird early on because not terrible early on, but it's just like there's a lot of Pokemon that do well with the Murkrow Trick Room, but it's just like a lot of the. When I look at this team, I feel like it just looks like it's missing something, but at the same time, it looks fine. Like once you really dissect everything's roles, I don't know what I'm thinking that it's missing, but I don't know. I'm kind of like confusing myself. When I looked at it originally, I'm like, this team's missing something. But now that I look at it and really think about everything, I don't know. I don't know what I think it's missing. I like the Murkrow plus the Cranidos and the Poplio for really good early like Trick Room or Tailwind offense stuff. I think Apom is great here, especially because it can hold the Eviolite. I'm not sure if Murkrow can or can't, but like it doesn't have to. It's great early on. Yeah, I think this team is just explosive early on. Does Makuhita? Yeah, Makuhita just gets guts, so you can do like Finish Shot Makuhita with like a little Trick Room mode. I think this team is pretty good early on.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. This is probably one of my favorite baby teams throughout all of the divisions, just because the individual mons can do so much on their own, and there's just a lot of really good, strong blue, like Murkrow and Poltergeist are really good blue mons for supporting both a Tailwind and a Trick Room mode for some of these guys. Like Cranidos is obviously the star of the show here offensively with that base 125 attack stat, and then you just give it the option to go fast or to go slow, or even just have Poltergeist spam Rage Powder while it fires off hits is very nice. Drowsy is a really solid Trick Room center as well, just inner focus, and you know, you give it a Metal Herb or whatnot. This team's got good Fake Out, it's got some good varieties of damage. Not so much on the special end, but I mean, it's kind of hard to get really good special damage, I would say, at this stage. Like, I don't think Murkrow gets like fake tears or anything like that, but you could just have like some strong overheats and like hydro pumps and stuff if you want your special damage. But this team just has a lot of tools for for the baby stage, and I think that is where a lot of other coaches struggle. So that's my favorite part about this team at this stage. And then as we go through, the tiers of evolution, this is after one stage, and then this is the final results. The Gudra does not have to be the Hisuian one, of course, but that's just an option. Probably, yeah, exactly. Probably will be. What do you think about it now?
I still think it's like missing something, but I still can't put a finger on it. I guess that what it's missing is it's missing something that can be like not even just like fast, but like mid speed, not mid speed, like upper mid speed. Oh yeah, I guess looking at speed tiers, this seems very slow. And, it has great trick room options. And especially now because the Honchkrow is like so much worse than Murkrow, and you're forced to evolve it. You don't have that extremely good Tailwind option anymore. So you're really reliant on trick room here. And maybe you can evolve the Gudra into like normal Gudra because then it's 80 base speed. But even with that, it doesn't do that much damage. It's only coming off like 100 special attack, I think. Maybe it's 110. It was still good, but it's still a Gudra. It's still it's not doing crazy damage. It's just you don't have a way to like raise this team speed very much. You have a way to Trick Room is great, but you don't have a good way to raise the team speed, and there's nothing that just does consistent damage and also can outspeed some things. I love balance, and a lot of what you need in balance is you need something that I kind of made this mistake last time with the regional draft league where I had like a bunch of slow ass shit that like couldn't do much until like Palafin was transformed.
Right.
But this team is gonna feel restrained unless it gets Trick Room up pretty quickly, which is the main problem I'm seeing here. But once it gets Trick Room up, it's very good, and it can definitely outbulk you and like wait and position around to get Trick Room up. But the thing is, you need Trick Room up, I think, for this team to strive.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like the biggest drop off is like having to forcibly lose that Prankster Tailwind, and then like your whole speed tier is just become really slow and bulky, which is fine if that's like the goal of the team. But then I think if I'm willing to accept speed tier as having this large of a gap between my two fastest mons, then like I think my like fast mode needs to be like a really premier tailwind center. Like it's got to be something like maybe like Kilowattrel or something in that category. Otherwise, I would probably have want at least like a base 90 speed mon in here somewhere. As far as the points about Gudra, Gudra would not, even with the little bit extra speed it offers, the regular Gudra would not save this team. And I actually think the Hisuian one is way better pairing with Sinistra, just based on type coverage. They cover each other quite well. And this is just one of the very hard parts of the team in general to break, is like the team can kind of will you down with like Primarina, Hariyama, like Rampardos, Camrup, and then like you have to expend all your resources trying to get rid of some of these guys, and then Gudra just comes in the back and sets up on you, and then you can't really break it at that point. And I do like that dynamic of the team. I just think it does need a little bit of work in that fast mode department, because anybody that's able to really deny Trick Room for this team will pretty much have pretty good control of the game. Ambipom is fast, but it's not really that great in the speed control department outside of like Thunder or Wave.
Yeah, or with this team, the thing is too with like a lot of these slow bulky teams, like it's not even that people are going to be breaking it. It's that people can just set up on it and like do whatever they want versus it. Where it's like if you're not putting pressure on at least a little, like Ambipom is the only pressure you're putting on turn one. If you're not starting the game with some control of the game, like it's very easy to lose control of the game. And the team is very bulky, and I will say that a bulkier team makes it easier to regain that control. But at the end of the day, like if you have a bad start and your opponent like brings some setup, which is going to be very common against this team, this team's going to face a lot of setup, especially when it has there's no like unaware. Primarina's a really good hazer, but you're basically going to be forced to run Primarina days every week. It's just like reminds me of my other team. my previous team when I had a bunch of slow bulky things and then just Talonflame for speed control. I had to run
Right.
Haze on Paladin every week because everyone would just set up on me, and it was like to a point where there could be not even like an obvious setup sweeper, but Haze Paladin was going to be good, or was going to be a good tool to have because everyone's just setting up.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Alright, so let us move on to the next team, which is the Pittsburgh Piplups, coached by Camo Dude. Why don't you take us through this baby mode?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what the moveset on Drillbur is looking like, but I like that. I like that they actually use their weather, especially with the baby mode. And I like that. I like the support Squirtle can provide. Other than that, I think the baby isn't great here. Like Squirtle and Palmy as babies kind of have similar roles. Once they evolve, it's a little different because Palmy's more of like a damage dealing, like fake out mon, whereas Squirtle's like the damage mitigation, fake out like support. But early on, like this team isn't great early on. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the one thing I do like about this team early on is I like the modality. Like, I like the sand mode with the Drillbur, the Hippopotas. I like the Perish Trap mode with the Gothita and the Seal. I do like the support that Squirtle can bring with like Fake Out, Life Dew, Icy Winds, all that stuff. But outside of that, yeah, it doesn't really do too much in this stage. You break it down to the middle evolution, you see a little bit more of the team's dimensionality coming into play, and then this would be the final stage of evolution, and where I think it gets a lot more deadly. Even though it, consistently has the sand mode and it consistently has the shadow attack, but then you have all these other really threatening players around having to play into the sand mode and play around shadow tag, and then of course Mousel just offering unilateral redirection, which is great for pretty much every member on this team that's not named Dugong, because they can all set up on you.
Yeah. This team is so much better when it evolves. Mousel is just a great draft Pokemon because of its versatility and like the Pop Bomb versus the Follow Me support sets like Thunder Wave, Encore. Excadrill, being an Excadrill versus being a Drillbur is such a big impact because Excadrill's attack set is huge and it does so much damage. As an Excadrill with the Sand Rush. Rule Edge is a great Pokemon. I know Camo Dude drafted a lot. He'll probably switch like the Valdon's Terra type to this Rule Edge too. To guess, or maybe the Blastoise. I don't really know. I'm not too sure, but I'll switch it to Cerulege because it's a great Terra Captain. I love Noivern personally. I think its Frisk in draft is so valuable.
I agree.
And just the fast Tailwind. It does decent damage too with Draco. It gets some decent support. It gets like Super Fang. It gets any moves down there that is super great. It gets Taunt. And then I love Palmot too in draft. It is a Terra Captain. So I love a lot of these Pokemon on this team, and I know Camo is pretty comfortable with a decent amount of these Pokemon. I mean, I do love a lot of these Pokemon because I gave him quite a couple of suggestions, mainly the Palmot in draft. But yeah, what do you think about this evolved? Well, you kind of said, but any other thoughts you have about this evolved team?
I think that Camo basically getting, in a lot of ways, his choice of setup, like whether he switches the Terra Captain to Cerulege or not, I actually think I agree with you. He probably will, but the fact that Mousel pretty much offers like his choice of setup either with this mon, like Shell Smash here, Swords Dance here, Bulk Up here, hell, even Gothitelle could just randomly roll out a Combine set one week. I think that's super powerful and flexible. And then on the weeks where maybe like he doesn't want to go the setup, like you can just do the Scarf Decorate on something. Like this team has a lot of really strong burst potential, and I think that's what makes it so dangerous. While it retains pretty much every single mode that was present from the beginning and the baby stage. And I think that really speaks to like how unified this team is and like how synergistic things are, because it pretty much stays the same all the way through. It's just that the mons get physically stronger.
Yeah. And the one thing I don't like about this team too much is there's a couple of mons that like don't do too much. There's like some overlap. Like I think Dugong gets fake out. I'm actually not sure. It
It
does,
does.
yeah. Like Dugong, it's just so much. There's so much fake on this team that's like if you're gonna run, I guess you probably run more offensive Palmont most of the time. But I'm not a huge fan of Dugong. Gothitelle on this team is not. I'm not huge about. I'm not huge about the Parastrat mode in general. I'm also not huge about Alchemy, just because I don't like having to scarf yourself in the deck rate and then like being forced to switch while it's basically it becomes like a 2-on-1 for a turn, which is like decent to handle. But I think the top of this team is very good and very annoying to play against, especially with all the options it has.
Alright then. Let's move on to our next team, which is Midland Marowak, coached by Dunn. I'll just jump in on this one. This is another one of those baby teams that I think is also fairly balanced. Like at this stage, like yeah, I know there's another Terra Magic card, but like that's the price you pay to get Gyarados later. Same with Applin for Hydreigon, but like you get some redirection with Spinarak. You get Intimidate with Littens. Swinub actually hits, I think, reasonably hard. Base 50, but like it's still got really strong like stat moves. You get some Intimidate with Stubble. I know me and Fu is like one of the best Little Cup mons in the general sense.
Yeah, it's so, the best. It's in singles Little Cup.
It's
like top 2. It's the best Pokemon singles Little Cup. Sure.
Yeah. So
according to the one video I watched, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this team is pretty decent for this stage of the game. Lots of different variety of tools, fake out, speed control in various forms, not like all locked on the same mon. You get your redirection. Like it's a pretty okay team. Or rather, sorry, not pretty good. It's a pretty solid team, I think, in terms of like what you can do for this stage. What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. Like, with Unevolved, it's you pay a little bit of price with the Terra Captains. I definitely think this team is not super great when it's Unevolved, but like if you want to go to when it evolves, this team is very, very good.
Yeah, even just this, and this is just like the first stage, and then this is the final. Yeah. The biggest thing,
even just the final stage, like, is the Piloswine is amazing. Getting Piloswine week 3 is amazing. Having Dipplin for week 3 is really good too. And then once you get just the second evolutions, Torracat is great for the couple weeks before you get Incineroar.
Yeah.
Piloswine is still great. Goldango is great.
Yeah. And then you get the final, which is just the bulky 3 here. That's really the only difference.
The only thing about this team that's so lacking is like there's not so much support for the Goldango, but I think if you just want to be a Scarf Goldango most weeks, like that's gonna work really well, especially when this team is pretty slow and bulky, and then being able to bring this Scarf Goldango out in the back once you've kind of withered everything down and once Trick Room ends, like it's a super solid game plan, and I think this team is great when it's evolved.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, he does have the Ariados for Rage Powder support for like setup Goldango, but like there's also a really good amount of pivoting between Incineroar with like U-turns, parting shots, and me and Shao, which I know for sure gets like U-turn. I don't think Dodrio gets any like pivot moves, but there's some like good pivoting to like cycle those Intimidates, maybe even just get Goldango in one of those spots, depending on like what you're trying to get. Like if you're trying to like not get hit with like close combat, you like parting shots like Goldango or just hard switch. You get the Goldango in that way. But I would agree, it's different than in the other division where the Goldango was more supported by like redirection and more like defensive abilities like the Queenly Majesty. Here on this team, it's probably just going to be like a choice item, like you said, majority of the time. Maybe even something as really crazy as like Assault Vest Goldango, like just really bulky out the gate because you have all this Intimidate support for it. But I really do like this. I do really like this team. Oh, I forgot Gyarados was Intimidate. So yeah, so it's like 3 Intimidations on this team. So like, Goldango. Yeah, I mean, Granbull's alright. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest Pokemon on this team, but like the fact that it just offers like some decent coverage, and it's a pretty decent fairy type for what it's worth. So yeah, I'm a really big fan of this team in the final evolution. I think this is a really strong team. Even in terms of like type chart, like I like the only thing I wish this team maybe had is like an electric type, but like I'm just kind of nitpicking at that point. Like you have resist
Yeah.
for Gyarados and Gyarados beat Terra. Like I think you're fine.
I'm pretty sure one of the Gyarados' Terras is also Terra Ground, I think, so
Yeah,
you guys round this out pretty well.
yeah, and like this flying weakness isn't such a big deal when you have like freaking Mamoswine. And same thing for like the rock weakness. Like you have Mamoswine and Gyarados to like really challenge the flying types that may want to, use stab moves to wreck most of this team. Yeah, great draft. All right, let us move on to Stranger Danger, Pittsburgh Celesteelus. Why don't you take this one away?
Yeah. Okay, there's that Sneasel Hisui back. It's a great Pokemon in this format, and although it unfortunately doesn't get supported by a terrain here, once it evolves, especially, you can still use both of its abilities just fine. Obviously, Poison Touch is probably going to what he's going to bring most of the time. Because Sneasel's already so fast, doesn't need Unburden that bad, or Sneasler, but like, you can use like the White Herb stuff, so it's not terrible that it doesn't have. Or well, actually, it does have Smoliv, but like it's super unreliable, so I don't like using like that kind of thing with Unburden. He did like with Arboliva, but I
Yeah.
think this team is when it's little, Steel was great as I just said. Um, NK, he got a lot of kills with NK last week, so I don't know what's the base stats looking like. They're not bad. They're not bad.
Uh,
Especially if you're a
base
mom that's going to set up
support.
on you with contrary superpowers. Um, like, and then there's the Larvesta. I think this team, it's not super deep when it's unevolved, but I think it definitely holds its own when it's in these first 3 weeks. What do you think?
Yeah. I think this is also a really solid baby baby mode team, I would say. I think the biggest advantage that this team has, and some of the more successful baby mode teams have this too, it has a lot of ones that have really high base power moves. Like this gets Flare Blitz off of a base 85 attack. Like, yeah, 85 attack don't sound that bad in the general sense, but like in this format, when you're throwing off basically base 120 base power moves plus stab, like that hurts. Like, same thing with like Frigibax getting like outrage and like having base 75. Like Sneasel, we've talked about, close combat, gunk shot, base 95. Like this stuff hurts. Contrary superpower, this team is very, very strong, I think, for the baby stage in terms of like the offense. Good amount of fake out pressure for disruptive pieces. Decent speed control with the trigger modes. Like it's very hard to really hate this team at this stage. And then as you move through, the ranks of evolution, this is mid-season, and then this would be like the final result. Obviously, they can have like the regular Samurott if they wanted to, but like Kasua and Samurott probably, they might actually go regular just because they have the Malamar already. But what do you think about the team at like final evolution stage?
I think it's scary for sure. I don't like again with the team that was in Ruby. I'm not huge on the Zebstrika. I think it's more the Zebstrika is more because there's not much else in the Safari Zone tier if you're not picking like a tier 3. But yeah, I like the Firewater Grass. I like Kasur and Samurai a lot, and I think on this team, like it's not super great, but just having sharpness in general is just good damage. It's just good physical damage. This team is not lacking physical damage, but I like Kasur and Samurai, especially because I've just won with it before. I really love Arboliva. I think is Arboliva tier 3? I don't think it is. I think you could. I think you should
it's a tier 2.
switch Terra to Arboliva once you get to that point in this draft. And I love the Sneasler. Obviously, Sneasler is so good in Reg Age. Whenever I'm playing against it, I feel like I always get slept and paralyzed. I also don't think Sleep Clause is. I don't think Sleep Clause is hurt like affected, or I don't think Dark Claw is affected by Sleep Claws because it's not in your control. So you're basically, you can sleep however many things you want with this fucking stupid ass mon. I love the Baxcalibur and the Volcarona. The Baxcalibur can just set up a lot, and the Volcarona can also like side Will-O-Wisp the Excalibur if it really wants to, because it is faster. Yeah, I just like this team a lot. This team is pretty great.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with pretty much everything that you said. Like, just Baxcalibur and Volcarona, I think, is really solid. And then like you have like the Florges as a good, just as a good general like Pollen Puff support mon, or even just a setup sweeper in its own right. And then you have these offensive threats here, and Arboliva and Meowstic kind of pulling it together. I agree that the Zeb Strike is kind of the weak link in the general sense, but it offers this team a mode of fast speed control like Electro Webs and Thunder Waves that it really otherwise would not necessarily have, without specifically like having to rely on Meowstic. And like Berserker's pretty decent for like just being a steel type that can output a lot of damage. So yeah, solid team, even a good recipient of coaching if we want to go that far. Coaching. So yeah, well, just a very wide variety of options. I think the one knock on this team, I think I would say, is that a lot of some of those setup options do revolve around redirecting. So like maybe that would be an issue just in terms of like how Stranger wants to play it. But I think he can play this team with enough variety where he doesn't have to lean on Volcarona so much just to get going.
Yeah, I think especially with in the hands of Stranger with such a good coach, like he just like utilizes teams so well with like that have variety, and this team has a lot of variety. I think it's gonna be really hard to pinpoint like a good game plan to stop everything that this team can do.
Yeah, like this is not a team I would look at and say like I can predict like movesets or items or even just what players you bring every week, because they're like a lot of these matches have a lot of depth to them. So really solid drafting strategy. All right. Next up is the Exeter Bayleafs. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Coached by Big Massive H. Talk us through this baby stage.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the baby stage. Your main players here are basically just the Mudbray and the Basculin, and that's kind of it. Like everything else here, the Krogan can do some stuff, but in the baby stage, I don't think the team is very good. I don't have that much to say about it, honestly. It's just most of the bonds don't do anything, and there's not a lot of compensation outside of the Basculin, which obviously the Basculin is very good for this point in the draft. Mm-hmm. With the adaptability, like wave crashes, it will be ripping through teams in the first couple weeks, but I don't have a lot to say about the baby mode. What do you think?
I would say the same thing. Like, it's one of those, like, we start off, we're going to be really bad for, like, the first couple of weeks, but then the second we get at, like, our first round of evolutions in there, like, we're going to just start taking off. Because, like you said, damage is pretty much here. And, like, Mudbray, Brasculin are decent damage dealers for this stage. And then, like, Torchic can set up with, like, speed boost. That's maybe about it. Maybe some skilling stuff with the pick and pack, and then Cleffa running. Redirection is obviously always welcome, but not too many great things to say. But then when we move through the evolutionary tiers, this is just the first layer, and already things are starting to look a lot better. You get proper Trick Room, you get really strong physical sweepers here with the Basque Legion, the Mudsdale, really strong support mon in the Toxic Rogue. What do you think? You get better redirection with Clefairy.
Yeah. No, I think this team is, even with the fact that it, like, I think half the team, or no, 4 of the mons are 3-stagers, so you only have like 6 fully evolved mons at this point. Like Clefairy is basically a fully evolved mon, and then you have an amazing like Tricker mode with the Mudsdale and the Levitate Bronzong. But I think where this team really pops off is once it's fully evolved. Because I love Blaziken. I'm not a huge fan of the Toucannon or the Arbok, but those were just like tier 1 picks that like you kind of had to pick up. In those routes there wasn't much depth. I love that they actually use their rain. Like unlike the other three people who have rain, they actually use it with the Vascular Legion and the Toxicroak. And yeah, like I don't know so much to say about this team more than just it's just solid. Like I like
Yeah.
this team a lot. Especially I rated it pretty highly on my tier list. Maybe a little higher than I should have rated because I was like, finally someone's using their goddamn rain, put it up there. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree with you. I do think the final result of this team really peaks on like what this team can do. Like this rain mode is very threatening, and then like you have the trick room mode behind it as well. Like this little rain room that you got going on kind of down here is nice. Clefable's really solid to support both modes, and Gentino is just a really good flexible piece at both enabling the Mudsdale with like skill like bullet seeds and stuff like that, or just doing damage in its own right. One thing I actually have to say that I really like about this final evolution, I like that Blaziken. Like you think about fire types that really go on, like that are utilized on rain teams, and like I like that Blaziken is not incredibly inhibited by rain. Like yeah, it can't spam fire moves, but like it can spam really strong like close combat coverage moves, all that stuff because it'll be a threat in its own right thanks to it still getting speed boosted. And like you said, the Toucan and the Arbok, like they're kind of just here. Although I appreciate the extra intimidate pressure for some of these bonds, as since the overall defense of this team outside of Bronze Lung Mudsdale is not great. So just props there. And like Toucan is still, it's bulky and it has sheer force. Like it's a decent offensive pick, and at least it can set Tailwind. Also another skill rank user for the Mudsdale. Like this team just seems really well put together, honestly.
Yep, I agree.
Alright. Last team of the draft. Matrix and Welsh Warlords. What do you think of Matrix's baby mons?
I think it's kind of weird that he has 4 of the same mods as me. But yeah, I think, and I think he has the same problems as me with the baby, where it's you got the Toxel and the Tyrogue, which don't do anything. You got the Azurill, which doesn't do anything, and you have the Yanma to make up for it a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this baby mode. There's nothing super great in this baby mode that I can see. I think Salazzle might get some decent stuff. How fast is it? Oh, no, it doesn't really get Encore with the baby, so it's...
Nope. No
It's
Encore.
not great, actually. Yeah. Well, it gets Encore and Evolved, right?
Yeah, it gets
actually
Encore when it evolves. No, it does.
Okay, yeah.
I believe it gets... yeah, Salazzle gets Encore as it evolves, but the baby form doesn't get it.
Okay, yeah, but... Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this team once it's not evolved. But, I mean, you can say your piece, but then we can... I'll talk much more about it once it's evolved.
Sure. I'm inclined to agree with you. I do like the again, I do really like the Yanma here. I think that's probably my favorite part about this team. Like even when like the whole format is like baby mons, I think having good speed control and flexibility in that regard is really important. And just like Yanma threatening speed boosts, potential sweeps in the back, compound eyes, hypnosis, or even just offering information with Frisk is very nice. Same with the Prankster Cockney. Like, there's just really solid speed control on this team. And then Zora kind of like almost glues it together with that illusion because you don't really know where it's hiding. And Normal and Ghost are pretty decently strong offensive typings. In fact, both of them are actually. I don't think there is a resist from both of those types. I think you basically have to be a like a Ghost Normal yourself. But it's like a nice little pairing with these guys. And then the Piplup is also pretty good. Just a bulky water type early on. But I would say, yeah, this team definitely shines a little bit more, even just getting to the mid stage, which is right here.
Yeah. I think this team is a lot more threatening. Same with like my thoughts about mine with like I just like Hitmontop and Toxtricity a lot in like the middle of the season. And once you get those two, it's great. Once you get Zoroark, it's great. And also obviously Whimsicott is also great. There are a couple. There's actually quite a few Pokemon on this team that don't do anything until the final evolution. That's kind of the downside of Meryl in this, or Azurill in this league, because it doesn't do anything until it evolves into that Azumarill. well, it kind of does something. It does like can do stuff in week 3. I'd say probably because you'll have a Meryl, but once week 4, everything's evolved at least once, and Meryl's not doing anything anymore. So
Right.
I think this team is pretty good. And my only real complaint is that I don't. I know I'm pretty sure he drafted Piplup because it's like his favorite, whatever. But the Empoleon does not fit on this team. Like once you have that Azumarill and the Corviknight, um, all Empoleon's jobs are like done. Like obviously, they're sort of physical and Empoleon special, but other than that, there's no reason for competitive because you already have that mirror armor, and you don't need the water type anymore or the steel type because you have Corviknight and Azumarill do those jobs, but better. It's not like you're lacking on special attackers either. You have the Zoroark, you have the Salazzle, you have the Toxtricity, you have the Whimsicott for some special damage, and although you're not bringing the Yan Mega that much later on, you still have the Yan Mega. I think this team is great. Just I know Empoleon's your favorite, but I don't think it's going to do that well for you this season.
I mean, I think those are fair takes. I will say that the one good thing about like water types in the general sense is usually they can be diverse enough where bringing both of them is not such a big overlap. Like Empoleon getting tools like Haze and Yawn, I think, are actually a little bit more valuable for this team because you don't really have those tools elsewhere. I will agree that like Steel on Steel, Corviknight kind of does a lot of what Empoleon hopes to do better on the physical side. But the general like offensive threat coming from this team, like with Garchomp, Azumarill, Toxtricity, even Yan Mega can hit really strong with that tinted lens. Now, I think this it makes for a really solid team. It's just gonna struggle with that uphill battle because it has to basically wait until this point in the season before it can really hit full power. And I think that might actually be a big challenge for it, just getting through those earlier weeks.
The problem is like if this team makes playoffs, they have a good shot of winning the league. But I don't know if this team can make playoffs just because of how reliant it is on those last like evolutions.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I think that's really the challenge for this team and other teams that we've seen lately, where it's like getting to this point, you can pretty much lock in a lot of good victories, but like having to utilize the tools you get until you get here is really going to be the challenge. And I think that's really what's unique about the league in the general sense is like you're almost choosing it's almost like you're choosing where your difficulty lies in some ways. Like you can have a really strong early game team and then like your team can really suck in the late game, just as playing a regular Nuzlocke would do on like an actual card game. You can choose a team that is kind of middle of the road all the way through and is just fairly consistent, or you can choose a team that starts off really slow but like ramps up to be really good when it gets to this stage. And I think this is one of those teams.
Yeah.
All right, and then we just have one last thing, which is gonna be your power rankings, or rather your tier list. I unfortunately did not have time to make my own. Just that teaching life is just so busy. But anything you want to say about your list before we sign off?
I'll say that I did put it together pretty quickly. I put it together like during like my last period of today in class, and then like I copied it on my computer when I got home. Like, I don't know, it's not I definitely think after talking about the teams, some teams were very underrated on this. Like, I would move the Welsh Wailords up. I'd move the Pittsburgh Celesteelers up. I'd maybe even move myself down because I didn't realize how strong the other teams were in the late game. Like until we like talked about it so much. And I'd probably move Purloin the Victory up a sizable amount. Maybe like the top like third or second and beats the gyms. But other than that, like I stand with most of my picks.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I would say I would probably agree with definitely moving up the Celesteelers, the Purloin the Victory, and the Welsh Wailords for starters for sure would definitely move up there. Yeah, and I think the rest of them are fine. I might personally move the Hard Flames down to beat the gyms just because I think that I think I really understood how much of a penalty they pay for losing that Murkrow, and I think it might boot them down a tier. But I think everyone else is pretty much in where I would put them in your tier list.
Down too.
Yeah.
I didn't when I was making them, I didn't realize like that the Pokemon were so slow. Like I thought Honchkrow was a little faster. I thought Rampardos was a little faster. I just forgot that like all those Pokemon are just so slow.
Yeah, no, that's valid. Any final words before we sign off?
Oh, I think I'm good.
All
It's
right.
been a long thing, so I think I
Yeah, I mean,
appreciate
not
it.
so bad. But hey, hope you guys enjoy your power rankings. Good luck, have fun in this season, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.